Welcome back to Kamen Rider Review, episode 97. You're probably thinking, wait, Nick, aren't you on break for Tokusatsu stuff? Yes, I am. But, excuse me, this is just basically just a movie that just happened to come out, and I'm reviewing part of the Kamen Rider series because basically it is a Kamen Rider movie. What am I reviewing? Shin Kamen Rider. Yes, I am viewing this movie. Just came out. I just came back from seeing this really good movie. Now, the movie itself does feature the following characters. It features the original Kamen Rider, Hayato, Professor Mogawa, his daughter, several of the monsters from the show, and a couple of the supporting characters from the show. And that's it. Now, Hongo himself basically is portrayed similarly was in the show, except there's more psychological stuff with him like there was in the show. And for instance, also the grunts, which in the show they refer to as the combat men, here they refer to as Shocker's lower class. And they're human, and they were killed at the start of the movie by, of course, the Kamen Rider when he broke out of being held captive. Now, the professor himself, a lot of what he... basically, this is pretty accurate to the original version of the character, where he's one who selected Hayato to be the... Well, for some reason, the subbing kept referring to him as the masked rider. Despite the fact I can clearly hear in the sub, the sub that said masked, he's actually called Kamen Rider. This, I think, is the fault of the subbers, because that's his name. Now, I've seen fan subs of Kamen Rider, so I basically watch all the Kamen Rider stuff. Here's the thing. That's his name. Kamen Rider. They make this thing with the movie version. Now, I'm not sure who did the subbing for this one. Subbing is really good. I think it's all on key. Except the whole thing of calling him Masked Rider instead of calling him Kamen Rider. You can clearly hear, like, if you hear the sub, you can hear him say Kamen Rider in English. But they translate it as Masked Rider. I don't know why. So, he breaks out, kills some combat, kills some lower class, and Professor explains that he's the one basically recommended to him. Now, in the show, this came a little bit later on in the episode, not like after he just basically got rid of this particular cabin. And you see him do something he never did in the show. Never. He opened his helmet to show off his face, and he took off one of his gloves while he was still transformed. Yes, something he never did in the show. Then, of course, basically, he talks to Professor, and of course, he explains that here's a sort of a cooldown mode. Just presses a button on the belt, and here is a shocker that, no point in time, Shocker's in the movie. He takes off his helmet. I should point something interesting about this. The Kamen Riders never remove their helmets in the entire show. Also, the way they had the suits positioned on their heads, it actually covered up their hair. For some reason, this version of Hayato has got long hair. Now you might be curious though, did the original one, did he at one point have long hair? Yes, he did, except it was tucked into his helmet. Why in the world was it tucked in the back? I don't know. Yeah, the way they have it portrayed here is like, the neck is like exposed, even though in the show they actually have like a special collar. And they show the covered up. Not sure why. And why the heck it's being removed, I have no idea. I do appreciate the fact that his suit is pretty accurate to how originally when the show first started, from the first 13 episodes, where the teeth is green. Later on it was made silver, and his boots changed too. Yep, so as it cools down, they mentioned that he's now an augment. Now, this is a change from the show, because in the show they're referred to as cyborgs. In the movie, they're referred to as augments, and based upon what I've been told about this, that's a more appropriate name to call them cyborgs. Even though they're basically augmented humans. That's most what they are. And then long after they of course you choose to hear the Cyclone, which is basically Hayato's motorcycle, which transforms and flies too. Then all of a sudden, now I'm going to call them basically by their names from the show, Man Spider shows up. Yes. And I appreciate the man's costume. Like, whoever designed the costume clearly watched the show, because the headpiece that he has, it is spot on from the show. Though they did make one small change here. They gave him like multiple arms. And also they changed slightly how he kills the Professor. Yes, he does kill him the same way he does in the show. He does strangle him. Except in the show, he uses his webs to do that. In the movie, he uses his hands. Also, Rika was definitely there. Except she didn't just come there and see Of course, she blamed Hayato for death of her father. In the movie, it was expected. Of course, also, she got knocked unconscious briefly, and spiders came out of her coat. Not sure why the heck that was. Then, he, of course, is up to the wall, though he does get free, and of course, while the professor's dying, he says, protect Rukia, which he does for half the movie. I should point the movie is basically 2 hours and 15 minutes. So then, of course, he goes to hunt down the spider, which then, this is something that's pointed out, though, by a Twitter user I follow, where he goes about the shocker lore class at an area which, this I thought was quite interesting. He pointed this out, though, and he did research about this. This fight sequence he has with the shocker Kamen in this location, it's the same location he went to back in the pilot episode of Kamen Rider. Yeah, the same exact location. I'm like, damn. Is it just me, or the people who wrote this movie clearly were fans of the show and just did the whole modern concept stuff? Then, of course, he fights him, which he has trouble fighting him for some reason. The show, he had a little bit of an issue, but not this bad. Then he beats him with a rider kick, which I should point out, though, he never says the words rider kick the whole movie, despite the fact he's clearly doing it. And after he's defeated, he dissolves, which is a slight change of positioning where he does in the show. In the show, when he dissolves, he's already on the ground when this happened. In the movie, he's leaning against a pillar. Then, of course, they eliminated Spider. Of course, they mentioned there's 4 others. Well, they think 4 others. Actually, it was 5. So, then they go to a new safe house, and then they come with 2 bearded guys. Which, I should point something interesting about these guys. They do not identify themselves until the end of the movie. I'll get to that. So, they, of course, know who they are. And, of course, they explain the whole origin story of this version of Shocker. The original version was connected to Nazis. This one's connected to terrorism. And was founded by a Japanese billionaire, which, that's different. And apparently, then we have this guy called K, who's like a robot built by him. Which, this is pretty interesting, though, about K, the robot. He himself is based upon another character that the creator of Kamen, what was his name here? I'm trying to find his name because they actually do mention his name in the movie. Shichiro Ishiramori. Yeah, from the show. It's a homage to the character K from the series Robot Keiji. Yeah, which I've seen what the character looks like from the see a picture of him. And the head is pretty much a clear spot on, basically homage to it. Which, that's actually quite smart of the people who made this movie. Like, okay, so you made basically a clear homage to the original Kamen Rider show, but you have a nod here to another one of his works. Smart on that part. So So eventually, all about creating happiness. The fact this is sort of a terror, and of course they knew about betrayal. And here's the thing: despite the fact Rukia, she was probably part of the organization, which in the show she wasn't. Her father was, but she wasn't. Excuse me. There's also something here about. Let me see if I can find him here. Come on. Here we go. Yes, that's correct here. So then, of course, they're tasked by the two government agents to hunt down the Shocker augments. So the first one they go after is the Bat one. I'm like, okay. So you think, okay, we're going in order when they did the show. So we already lived with the Spider. Bat is next. I didn't mind the Bat redesign here. It's perfectly fine. What it is. I do think it's quite odd though. He's a scientist now. Also, he creates a virus. Which, yes, he sponsors plenty of virus in the show, except that they didn't have him created. He was just basically augmented. He was basically a monster in the show. He can fly now, which is interesting. Yes, I did see in the trailer that he can fly now. Not sure why they have him fly here, but here's the thing: you might be asking, Nick, did this bat creature, did he have wings in the original show? Yes, he did. Did he fly? Did he turn upside? Did he hang upside down? No. He never did that. Not I remember. Also, all of his actions were confined to a apartment building compared to this movie where it's confined to a theater, which is interesting. What all done was this lab. Also, he knows Ruka 2, which is interesting because in the show, he knew that's also a good change. So, like, oh, hello, little trader. Yeah, they know she's a trader, but they will walk around no problem. Which, normally they would kill traders on site, but nope, this organization apparently has no problem with basically a trader. All probably because her father was respected. And, of course, they sort of brainwash her, and there's also a whole thing here he's sort of debating using this helmet, which apparently can allow him to basically, like, control his senses when it comes to basically fighting. He takes off, like, oh, he's going to succumb to this, like, virus. Nope, it doesn't work. And then she shoots at one of his wings, and then you have him basically go and, well, ride his motorcycle and allow him to fly. Which, if you're curious, though, did the motorcycle ever, like, let's just say, glide in the air? It did. And he jumps on him and just basically does his rider kick, and then he just kills him that way. Compared to the show, where he threw off a building. Still very violent death. I at least got handed to that. And of course, they show blood in his shoe. And then here's something interesting, though. The next monster is a scorpion woman, which is interesting because that was not the next monster's show. Nope, it wasn't. If you're really curious about the monsters they have here, the Scorpion Man, well, they don't exactly take elements of this character who was a rival. They gave it to the Wasp one, which is interesting. Now, you might be curious though, like, by the way, the Scorpion was a guy in the show. Yeah, was a guy. And this is something interesting though. When she got killed off the movie, she was killed by government agents compared to the Kamen, which I thought that was interesting. Then the very next monster is the Wasp one, which this one is an old friend of Rukia, which and by the way, her real name is Dori, which is interesting. Himori, which is also the name of. This might shock you. That was the name of also her friend in the show, except they made this one the Wasp woman for some reason. Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. And, like, And they show up briefly like transformed. I at least gotta appreciate the fact that this also knows thing they got right. Like, and also the fact he uses a katana. That's different. By the way, in the show, the Wasp Woman had one of those weirdest looks I've ever seen. She was also noteworthy to being the first female monster in the franchise. Here we had 2 female ones. And they confirmed her frickin' twice in the movie. And second time, basically, he just... I should point out that a lot of the times when he does fighting in the movie, they end up basically being parts of the opening theme song for the show. Let's Go Kamen Rider, sung by the original Kamen Rider himself. Yep, his actor sings the song. Which they play the full song in the ending credits. Yep. Yeah, then of course basically it takes to the server, which frees everybody on the Wasp Woman's control. In case you're curious to the doing the show, yes, she did. She did. Now, if you case the order of these characters when they first showed up in the show. Now, yes, the first 2 shockers, the first 2 monsters, which were Bat and yeah, the Bat and the Spider and the Bat were definitely the first 2. The Scorpion definitely was the 3rd one. Yes. Now, here's the thing. They skipped over the plant one and the Mantis Man for Chameleon. Chameleon came a little bit later. They basically swapped the order. The Wasp Woman next, then Chameleon, which is interesting. The fact they did that. So, how did they eliminate the Wasp Woman movie? Does the writer kill her? Nope. He doesn't. He fights her. Pretty good battle. And she gets shot. She gets shot by one of the government agents thanks to the poison they stole from Scorpion Woman. Yep. Oh, and also was mentioned that apparently Hogo can take off his suit, which in the show you never see him take off the suit. Apparently it was stunk. So she's gonna change her clothes, and she records it, which I contemplate later. You're thinking, okay, so they've already eliminated, let's see, about 4 monsters at this point in time. And she thinks, okay, with the exception of the Butterfly Man, like, she thinks, oh, that must be it. Let's eliminate that. So then all of a sudden they go confront him. And this is where we introduce the ancient emoji. Kamen Rider number 2. This is when he shows up. Which, this I thought was quite interesting, though. Like in the case of the original Kamen Rider, he actually wearing his actual suit from the show. Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, they also, I should point out, was interesting, though, the fact that both these guys are given their scarves by Ruka, which is interesting because this you might find quite strange, though. Hayato Izumoji never met her in the show. Never did. So I'd say it's mostly like his costumes later on basically is from something else. So, yeah. Now, they do keep the belt design interesting, though, about him, but... yeah. You might be curious, so this is how it comes to. Yes, when he first introduced the movie, he's brainwashed, which is interesting. Then after the 2 cameras fight, then Hongo breaks his leg. You're thinking, wait, is this another Easter egg for the show? Yes, not in the case of Hongo, but in the case of his actor. his actor was like in the show he was out briefly. Though they also apparently kept the fact they can heal quickly, which is also from the show as well. Then knowing after he gives a scarf, the Miracle can stab him behind by the Chameleon Man. Yes. They bring him in the movie, which so far we're facing a bunch of monsters that are basically were basically mostly Hongo fought them. And then with Hongo injured, Ichimoji, who just became who basically been free from brainwashing, has now officially taken the name of Kamen Rider as well, and fights the creature and beats him. Then Rukia basically just transplants. Now, there's something weird in this movie, which is saying though they apparently the monsters are powered by souls. Well, soul energy. And they can do it by touching humans, absorbing their soul energy. So, she goes into his helmet and basically just, not exactly tells him that she's in love with him. Oh no, it was never stated if she was in love with him or not. So, gives thoughts, feelings, her last will. Despite the fact she was told to be protected by her father, but she died. And of course, I love the fact that Ichimoji, they kept a lot of his traits from the show. Where, number one, he's taller than the original one. Number two, the fact he's a photographer. Which, yes, he did in the show too. They changed his camera though. His camera's like a mini spy camera. In the show, he used a regular camera for that was the year of the period of time. They go separate a while. And then, of course, you have, well, when they showed the Butterfly Man. Like, second time I show him. Then he's surrounded by, get this. And this might surprise you about this particular. Excuse me. And then, of course, he is surrounded by. Where are they? What I referred to as the phase variant beta augments, a group of 10 writers. Yeah, basically this is the movie version of the Shocker writers. In the show there were 6 of these guys. In the movie there was 10. So you have Hayato fighting these guys, take out 2 of them, and then of course Ichimoto shows up and basically takes the name of Kamen number 2, and Hayato's like, oh, that means we're double writers now. Yep. So then, of course, they do the pose of the show, which I love the fact include music here. I also love the fact that the Cyclones have the same sounds from the show, too. And after they beat them, like, okay, so the Butterfly Man is next. Now, here's something you might find interesting, though, about, well, now you might be thinking, is the Butterfly Man from the show? I am lucky. Oh, excuse me. I look at basically like who could possibly this Butterfly monster based on. Well, there was a Butterfly monster from the original Shocker show, except it was a woman. Yes, this is from a monster appeared later on the show, so yeah, and then of course then It goes, oh yeah, then he does the henshin, which causes his face to split and then covering himself with a helmet. And it reveals his code name. It's not Butterfly Augment, it's Kamen Rider number 0. Yes. And they fight for a while. Number 2 loses his helmet. Yes, it gets destroyed. Then, like, okay, so they overpower him, and then he dies after seeing his sister again. Then Hayato dies. Yes, for some reason he dies. Not sure why in the world they decided to do this for. Why did the movie killed off the original one for some reason? Then, of course, his helmet transforms, and, well, his suit gets, of course, number 2 gets damaged. Of course, he's like, oh, again, okay. And, of course, basically, Hayato is his helmet. And then the bearded men reveal their real names. The older one is Tabata. Yes, the aforementioned for the show. And the younger guy is Taki. Taki was the FBI agent who worked with the original Kamen Riders. Well, the first 2 anyways. And he did martial arts. And he actually part of the show. In the movie, he just did the sidelines. And then, like, okay, so they make a new... I like a request. I like a new suit and cycling, which he does get that. And I like the fact they actually had it where his helmet is a nod to the show, which he does get an updated version of the suit in the show. And then, like, okay, we need help take on the Cobra Augment, which that is also a monster from the show. And you might be curious, though, is this another of Hayato's monsters? Yes. It's strange, though, the fact that all the monsters in the movie are basically from Hayato's eras. Yeah, matter of fact, the Butterfly Monster is also one of his monsters, too. Yes. And, of course, he rides off, hearing the voice of the original Kamen Rider's head. And that's the movie. Yep. I gotta admit, this movie was excellent. I loved it. I love all the Easter eggs from the show, which is quite nice. Interesting the fact that when they killed Ruki on the show, in the movie, I guess that was a way, basically, of writing her out, because basically it's like, once, of course, Ichino just showed up, she's, like, gone. So, gotta take on the movie. So, in the show, they basically wrote her out a show, but going to Europe. In the movie, they had her get killed by the chameleon monster. Which, yeah, she did count that monster in the show. And the whole thing of the butterfly monster being her brother, that was completely made of the movie, because these two never met in the show. He was a monster from later on in the show, the original one. Yep. I do appreciate that we're going to feature possibly a sequel to this one. And have Hayato, of course, fight the Cobra monster, which is going to be interesting. Yep. Now, could we possibly see the monsters coming back next movie? Don't know, because they did a lot in the original show where the monsters just come back completely randomly. Some be a resurrection, just are like, oh, they're just there. Yep. But yeah, that's particularly a particular view. I have no more time for videos because I do only play video playing new tonight, so tomorrow. Probably just one. Probably Doctor Who, maybe Comic Corner. Okay, next video. Bye.